Hey YouTube, I'm out here today with the bicycle. I'm gonna go for a ride. It's kind of sprinkling right now. I don't really care. Karen, on the other hand, doesn't want to go for a ride. Um, so, I've been doing some thinking of things that I'm going to upgrade real soon and do videos on. One of the things, the very first things I'm going to change is the cables for the brakes. Um, they are really stretchy cables. I mean, uh, these are four finger brake levers, so they're not the norm for most bikes with disc brakes, but it was probably uh, the only solution they had at this price level with a brake disconnect so it shuts the motor off. Um, Typically, bikes don't have this cable, this brake cable, all the way to the brake. Usually, on the front brake, it may be this way, but on the back brake, it's usually a portion of it is just bare cable, and then they have butted ends. Like they could have made it so the bike still folded if they would have put a stop here for the cable and a stop here, and then had this as open cable underneath the bike, but they didn't do that. And it's not likely that it would be easy to do in the first place. They have a spot for the cable to run and it's wrapped all the way, but there's no place to mount the cable otherwise. So, and I'm going to put 5mm cable, and I don't believe this is 5mm uh, uh, cable housing. It might be, but it's really cheap. So if you're going to upgrade your cables on your bike, don't do the cheap stuff. Don't go to the store and buy a brake cable kit. Buy something that's decent, that's made with stainless steel cable. The brake cable's out of stainless steel, and they sell it as kits. They're going to be about 17, 18 bucks to get enough. You're going to need, I'm going to say a meter for the front and about a meter and a half for the back. So you're going to need 2.5 meters of cable housing total. The cables are going to all be about 2.2 meters long, so don't worry about the cable length. But the housing might be a problem. You might have to go to a bike shop and actually get it cut to fit. Just make sure you buy Shimano cable housing. It's lined, it has a plastic liner in it that helps it slide smoother. And that's what's wrong with Karen's bike, is it comes right down to it. That cable housing on her back bike is just crappy, and that's why I keep having problems with it not really adjusting right. But um, I gotta go. Did some trail adjustments and got it to the point that I thought it was reasonable yesterday. And then the next thing will be the front chainring. I'm going to go ahead and replace that with the 56 tooth. I'm not going to mess with the back. I think 14 by 56 is a tall enough gear. That should be good for somewhere in the 31 to 32 mile an hour range. Probably faster than you want to go. And it also is going to change so that you're running your chain in the center sprocket most of the time instead of the bottom end of the sprockets. That'll be an upgrade that I look at. They did that on the 2.0. The handlebars are done. They didn't go wide enough as far as I'm concerned on the 2.0. They should have went at 660 or 66 centimeters as a minimum, or about 28 inches. Should have been what they went with. It really changed the steering dynamics of the bike, made it much better, more stable. Karen, a novice rider, will tell you she feels so much more confident with the handlebars change. So that's one change. The 56 millimeter. So they did that change. They have the same seat post. I'm running 31.6, and it's a little small for the seat tube diameter. They're saying theirs is 32 millimeters, but I measured the seat post I have, and it's closer to 31.8. So this is a compromise. Mine stays put, and so I don't have a problem with it. So I'm going to tell you that you want to buy a 31.6, that's fine. This was just the cheap one. It is micro adjustable. You can set it any way you want, and you can slide your seat back and forth on the rails. Another thing I'm considering doing, when it comes time to replace the chain and the freewheel, is I'm going to buy a different cover for the motor and put a cassette freewheel on it. Well, cassette is instead of you can buy the plate on the right side of the motor that has a cassette body already on it, so you can use a cassette. Much cheaper, much easier to change. Take you a second to throw a different cassette on there if you don't like that one, and they're much more size wise. They have so many different sizes for a cassette, and not so much. Also means that it'll probably at that point be time to look at an 8-speed gear train. 7-speed is becoming somewhat of a dinosaur to find, and that's part of the reason why the derailleur is a tourney. It's because the only other one available is an Altus, and that's basically a 7/8-speed front rear derailleur. This bike has too long of a derailleur with the current gear selection it has on it. Even if I updated and put a different cassette on, I wouldn't go bigger than 28 tooth because it's just not needed. It's plenty low enough already. But I would consider a shorter cage for the rear derailleur. Saddle Tramp 1200, who is a subscriber, says that he doesn't like the way his shifts. Doesn't like tourney. Well, it is the bottom of the line. Tourney, they make tourney for both mountain bikes and road bikes, so they do have a short cage version of this derailleur, and why Lectric didn't choose to use it is beyond me. Let me move you over here so you guys can see what I'm talking. When I say short cage, let me turn you down, I mean the length of this here. This is the cage. The shorter the cage, the closer it is to your cassette, and the better control you have of the chain. Slap, and why this bike doesn't have a slap problem, because there's no chainstay to slap, per se. So when you go to a shorter cage, it affects the way the bike shifts. A road bike shifts so much faster than a mountain bike does anyway, but when you're using a smaller cage on this bike, it would make quite a bit of difference. Now, it's dictated. If I was running a bigger, when you buy a derailleur, it'll tell you how much the total teeth it can accept. For a 28 tooth, that would be a road bike gear, in which mainly this bike is going to be on hard surfaces. So we would want to go to a short cage, unless you're going to go above a 34 tooth. So at this point, I would recommend, if you're going to look for a new derailleur, you don't like it, find you a short cage derailleur, maybe a road bike derailleur. I think put you back up this way. I think if you look for a Sora level, which would be not bottom of the line in a road bike, the road bike line, Shimano lineup, that you may be able to find one that's an 8-speed. It's doubtful you would be able to find a 7-speed. Front shifter, you can. They make thumb shifters that are 8-speed. I think Micro Shift makes one. You could go to grip shift if you wanted to. Well, you can't go to a grip shift. Sorry about that. There's no way with the throttle there. So you have options. But if you're going to upgrade the rear derailleur and you're going to go to a cassette, you might as well just upgrade to an 8 or a 9-speed setup, which would require, once you go above 8-speed, you need a different chain ring on the front too. So that's why I'm kind of stuck on 8-speed. I don't really want to try to find a different chain ring. You'd have to replace. This is a real cheap setup anyway. This Pro Wheel stuff is bottom of the line. I'm looking to see how it's mounted. It's pressed on there, so you're pretty much stuck with finding a different single speed chain ring if you're going to go to a 9-speed, and that's part of it, because the chain will not mesh with the 7 and 8-speed chain rings. They're just too much difference. So you're looking at a difference in chain ring. So once you get to that point, you're actually starting to talk about, you might as well just bought a different bike if you're going to start spending that kind of money. So, but the derailleur, when it comes time to replace this one, or if something, if it just gets too slow, I'm going to go to a road bike derailleur. I probably have one somewhere here, around here somewhere. I know I have a couple of XTR derailleurs around here somewhere, but I'm pretty sure they're all long gauge ones. So I'll update that and update the drivetrain to 8-speed. So we're talking about $35-40 for the rear derailleur, another $35 for the shifter, depending on what you get. If you get a trigger shifter, yeah, you're gonna be in that range easy. 35, so $70 right there. The cassette's gonna be another $28-30. The plate that you need to mount the cassette body on and cassette is $33. So if you're looking for bikes, for bike parts to upgrade your electric bike, or just to fix your electric bike, and you got the old answer from electric that the part isn't available, don't use that as the, it's not available to them. Maybe their manufacturer doesn't want to provide it to them. So greenbikekit.com has all the parts that you will need for your electric bike, from cadence sensors to motor parts to controllers, displays, anything that's electric bike wise. But that's where you're gonna, that would be your one part source. greenbikekits.com. So remember that. I'm not sponsored by them. I just done some research, and even though Bafang USA sells parts, they do not have the parts that this place has. They have everything. Cables, cable ties, everything that you want for an electric bike. You could upgrade your hub if you want more power, all kinds of different things. They even sell batteries, not the battery for electric, but they sell batteries. So if you're looking for an extra battery, throw in the rack back here and pull it, use that 5mm plug-in, I think it is, and you could plug it. whether people realize this, you can go buy you another battery, wire it with the same plug that your charger has, which is readily available on Amazon. Buy you the cable all made up, wire it onto your battery, and plug it into the side here, and you'll get more range. It won't be double the range, but you will get more range. And the batteries will drain at the same time. So whether you guys realize that, it is possible to put hook a battery in there and get a little more range out of it. Now these Tech Pro brakes, they've been around for the better part of 25 years now. This particular model has been around forever. And I'm pretty familiar with them. I've seen them on lots of different bikes. I've never had the problems I've had with this. So I'm going to put it to the cables being the problems with these brakes. Now my bike, my XP, I haven't had the problems that I've had on Karen's, so I think it's cable routing on that bike. I think that there's just some tight turns in it that makes the cable not want to return. So we're going to replace hers first. Hers will be the first one I do, and then I'll do this one later on. But the brakes are fine. They do what I want them to do, and I'm not going to replace them anytime in the near future. I would definitely not do hydraulics on this bike. And here's why. If you ever fold it, you may pinch a line and break it. And then if you've never messed with hydraulics, you're going to find that mineral oil will strip the paint right off your bike if you're not careful. Especially this cheap stuff. So if you fold your bike and you crimp that line or bend that line too far, you're in trouble. So keep that in mind. Cable is going to be a little more forgiving. Basically, this housing is just a spiral wound flat steel covered by vinyl, so it'll bend without kinking. So to a point. You can kink them if you want to. So keep that in mind. If you're going to upgrade to hydraulic, here's the only way I do it, is if I found a cable actuated hydraulic brake. Now, the whole idea, the reason people like hydraulics is the lever feel. It squeezes easy. It's a whole lot better than cable, because when you squeeze this cable, you're flexing the arm down there, you're stretching the cable, and you're actually braking long before you get to that level of brake application. So, the 2.0 solved some of these things, but it didn't solve everything all the way. They still are using a free wheel. Free wheels are limited in the number of teeth you can get and all kinds of things. So that's why I'm talking about buying a cassette plate for that motor. Is just that much easier. That derailleur, once you change this rear derailleur, you probably actually have to take a couple links out, and you'll find that you have more clearance. Right now, the bottom of that derailleur is hanging about where the rim is, and if I could get one of our other bikes out here, I would show you that that's non-typical. It is way too close to the ground. If you're riding in grassy fields or something, you're going to find that you're dragging your derailleur through the grass and getting caught and all kinds of stuff. And it's closer to the ground. Now you're also kicking up more dust into your chain too. So that would be one reason to upgrade that and put a shorter cage on there, because that cage is typically going to be this long instead of this long. So it'll move up the bottom of your derailleur probably an inch and a half, 2 inches up higher, and give you that much more clearance from the tire. So I better get on my ride. I'll upload this when I get home. We're up to 535 subscribers now, and the 1,000 subscribers is the magic number where people start looking at you and sponsoring you, and maybe I can get Park to sponsor some tools, and you can see what's worthy of buying or not, and so on. Yeah, let's see. I think that's it. I can't think of anything else. So we're going to look at replacing the cables, doing the front chain ring, and looking at the back hub motor and possibly replacing that with a cassette body hub cover, motor cover. And it also moves the bearing, the second bearing farther out too. Okay. Thanks for watching.